Hello and welcome. Today I'm going to show you how to make the easiest sourdough starter with absolutely no discard and no waste. In order to achieve this and have my starter active in less time, we're going to use one of the ancient grains, and that's rye flour. I'm also using a wide and flat container so that oxygen can penetrate more easily. And we need to ensure that the water is non-chlorinated. If you have a well, your water is naturally non-chlorinated. But if you live in the city and your water is treated, you can use bottled water from the supermarket or fill a container with water from your faucet and leave it on the countertop for at least 24 hours so that the chlorine can evaporate. Then you can use that water. This is day 1 and I'm adding a quarter cup of rye flour and a quarter cup of non-chlorinated water. I'll be stirring it for probably about 2 minutes just to incorporate as much oxygen as possible and give it a good kickstart. Then I'm going to cover it and put it in a warm place on my kitchen counter. Now for the next 24 hours, we are not going to add anything else to this flour and water mixture, but we're going to be stirring it a few times throughout the day just to incorporate a little more oxygen. There is not a set schedule. You can do it whenever you remember or every 4 to 5 hours as you wish. Now this is day 2 and it's 24 hours later. I began my starter at around 9 p.m. the day before, so it's about 9 p.m. today. And I'm going to add again a quarter cup of rye flour and a quarter cup of water and give it a very good stir. And once again, I am going to put it in a warm area on my kitchen counter. We are now in winter and our wood stove is burning wood, so our kitchen area it's pretty warm. Day 3, 24 hours later, and it's around 9 p.m. today. As you can see, some tiny bubbles are beginning to form, but it's not fully fermented yet. And we're going to feed it for the second time. A quarter cup of rye flour and a quarter cup of lukewarm non-chlorinated water. And we're going to give it a very good stir. We will cover it again and place it in the warm spot. And this is day 4, 24 hours after the last feeding. And I am going to add a quarter cup of rye flour and a quarter cup of non-chlorinated water and give it a good stir. And again, for me, this is 9 p.m. again because I started the process around 9 p.m. on the first day. But you can begin your starter at any time of the day. Just wait 24 hours for the next feeding. And please, you don't have to be exact, give or take about 24 hours. Now, for the following step, this is something that I like to do personally. After the 4th day, I like to transfer all that mixture to a brand new and clean container. The reason for this is to prevent a mold from forming on the sides of the container. I'm going to put the lid and then place it on the warm spot again. This time I am going to be adding a rubber band to mark the amount of flour and water mixture that I have and see if next day it has doubled in size. Right now it's about 6 a.m. in the morning and it's less than 12 hours after the last feeding that I did at 9 p.m. the day before. As you can see, this new starter is very active, is bubbly, and it has doubled and I would say tripled in size. And now I am ready to bake a bread. Please be aware that the time that it will take your starter to get active depends on the temperature in your house or in the area where you keep your starter. A temperature below 70 degrees Fahrenheit will considerably slow the fermentation process and it could take longer for your starter to ferment. On the other hand, a temperature above 85 degrees Fahrenheit could deplete your starter of food very quickly and therefore invite unwelcome bacteria and even mold that could overcome the yeast and kill it. Finally, I'd like to share some useful tips with you. Tip number 1, you don't have to make rye flour bread. You're only using the rye flour as a starter, but for the rest of the ingredients, you can perfectly use the white and unbleached all-purpose flour when baking bread. Tip number 2, you don't have to feed your starter with rye flour all the time. After your starter is robust and mature and you have made 2 or 3 loaves of bread and done several feedings, the next time you feed your starter you can add half of the white and all-purpose flour and half of the rye flour to begin training your starter to consume other types of flour. And the next time, you can just feed your starter all-purpose white flour if that's the only flour that you have at hand. At the beginning, it might take a little longer for your starter to get bubbly and robust, but it will work just fine. Tip number 3. After your starter is robust and you have gained some experience, learn to get a feel of the consistency of your starter as you stir it. Sometimes you might need to add just a little bit more or less water or more or less flour. Our ancestors didn't have scales and they learned how to keep the right consistency. And I am not a professional by any means. I'm just a home cook who enjoys making sourdough bread and wants to share my tips and tricks with you. I hope that this video has been helpful for you. Please don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel, and I look forward to seeing you on my next video on how to bake a delicious sourdough bread with this starter that we just began today. See you soon and have a very blessed day.